As I think back about how it all started for me with what's now Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan, I had been driving for Chip Ganassi, and at the end of the year I wasn't going to continue there, and I wasn't really sure where to go, but I had a couple of teams, and I was really close to signing for another team, and Bobby invited me over to the house and showed me around, and Bob can be pretty persuasive, and he was in this case. And he didn't just talk me into joining the team. He kind of talked me into moving to New Albany and becoming his neighbor and his barbecue buddy and everything. So it was a good decision because it was a great 4 years of my life.
Well, Bryan, I first I'd followed him in Indy Lights a bit, and he'd had success there. Obviously he was the guy that you considered for the future. I think his first ride actually was with Ganassi, and that was, I think, about a year, and then he went to drive for AJ Foyt. Had a big accident in Toronto, hurt himself, but came back, and we were looking for, of course it was at that time where I was getting towards the end of my career. Shell Oil Company, which had been an associate sponsor of ours at the time, agreed to expand and be the primary sponsor of a car for the entire season in a multi-year agreement. So we, it seemed like that was the right time, and Bryan was available, and so next thing you know, we're working together, and of course he did a really good job for us in the years that he drove for the Shell car for, at that time, Team Ray Hall.
Looking back at the 6 poles with the team, hard to really pick a favorite. I think the 3 in a row at Laguna was special for me, obviously, but really all of them, and being able to lead those races. As I look back, out of those 6 poles, I think we only converted 1 of them into a win, so maybe 2. Maybe it's funny, you think you remember those things maybe more, but very proud of having achieved that, and I guess being tied with Kenny Brack for most poles career for the team. Yeah, I still get asked about the pass there at Laguna. It obviously I was on the wrong end of that. At the time I was unhappy, a little shell-shocked. I remember feeling like it wasn't a legal pass at the time, and frankly probably wanted the team to be a little more aggressive at fighting that for me. But as I look back now, it did set us up to come back the next year, and I got my first win at that track against Alex, which was also a great memory for me. And sort of as time has passed, and you look back at Zanardi and everything he's been through, all his ups and downs, and the history, I look at it a lot differently now than I did, and I can honestly say it's a part of my history. I wish I had won that race, but it doesn't eat at me anymore that I didn't.
I mean, how many times have we all seen that on TV, and YouTube or whatever, the pass that Zanardi put on Bryan there on the last lap. It was a shame because Bryan was driving a beautiful race, and frankly, I think as a team we dropped the ball on that. We should have protested Zanardi because he shortcut basically the track, and you're not allowed to do that in the rules. And but we didn't, and I'm not sure why. But in any event, Bryan was pretty upset about that, and rightfully so, because he had really led a lot of the race, if not all of it, and I know he was quite upset, and so I think the next year he was bound to determine that wasn't going to happen again, and of course he dominated the race the next year.
Interestingly, Bobby was the king of Laguna for years and won 4 there. And so, when I kind of had my dominant run, I think it was probably natural to think, oh, well, Bob gave Bryan the shortcut somewhere or something. But they actually ran a different configuration during his run of success. What was turn 1 for us was just kind of a kink and joined back around turn 7. So, the track was different, but I think it was kind of cool for the team overall to have had that, almost 10 or 12 year run of dominance at that track. Looking back at the 98, 99 Laguna Seca wins, '98 was the most significant for me. It was significant because it was my first win. It was significant because just the year earlier is when Zanardi had passed me in the corkscrew, and I was driven, motivated to try and set that right. So I felt like coming back, and I was really proud that it was right before he left for Formula One, to have that chance to kind of battle him head to head one more time on that track. That was probably one of my favorite wins of all time.
I think Bryan was, again, a guy, his driving style was different than mine. And at places like Cleveland, or places like, although we were pretty good at Cleveland too, but particularly Laguna, there was just something. I asked him one time, I said, "Where's the shortcut?" Because he was that much faster than I was, it was just a style that he had that really fit that track. And there were other circuits that were similar, where you're carrying a lot of speed into a corner, through a corner. It's not necessarily about late braking, it's about momentum. And his style really, I think, fit that, and that's why he was so good at Laguna.
I'm really proud of sort of the time I had in IndyCar and being part of the series at such a cool era there at the end of the '90s. You look back at how awesome the cars were, the speeds were pushing 1,000 horsepower, 17,000 RPM plus in qualifying from the engines, and really that time was all spent for me with the Rahal team. So as I look back, it was something that I'm really proud of, to have been with the team. It had sort of iconic black and yellow and white shell car that I think a lot of people still remember and like, and such a cool era in the history of the sport, and to spend it with a team that was really good to me, and we share a lot of great memories together. So fast forward sort of 15, 18, 20 years, and to have my son, never could have imagined back then that my son would end up driving for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, and of all things, winning the Daytona 24 Hours with them. And so that was really special. I think Bob and I shared a couple of nice little moments. It's been fun for me to watch Graham, who I remember as a kid back when I was driving for Bobby, and all he's gone on to achieve. And I think it was kind of cool for Bobby to see Colton come back and drive for the team and have some success, maybe add a little bit to the legacy there.
Well, I got to tell you, after when we won Daytona with Colton, it was a tough race. Rained, it was horrible, the weather. And this is 2020, I think, or 2019. I never forget, we sat in Victory Lane for an hour waiting for photos, and everybody was just soaked. It was raining so hard. But I think the happiest guy in the victory circle was Bryan Herta and his wife, because here Colton had won this big race along with his teammates, and that was a big deal. And Bryan was super. He was excited, and rightfully so. So glad we had the opportunity to take two Hertas to Victory Lane.